I wanted to cover some material and talk about this week's homework assignment, obviously, and give you a little bit of insight into how to think about this homework and how to kind of best prepare yourself for what you need to do. To me, this week's homework is probably the hardest. It's one of those things that I think either clicks or doesn't in your head, and if it doesn't, it can be difficult, and if it does click, it can be pretty easy to throw something out. That said, even if it's easy, you can kind of refine this type of thing to infinity. So, I'm going to talk about kind of the mindset that you want to take, and hopefully make it easy on you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about marketing, just in general, what marketing is, and I think I did this a little bit last time we talked, but kind of talk about that fine line between sales and marketing, and maybe like how to think about what the role of marketing is, and when it comes to managing a small business, like why marketing is really essential, and kind of like maybe think about like how to think about that fine line between sales and marketing, and like maybe the reason that's important. So I think maybe I'll start there. I guess, the reason knowing these lines is important is, to me, marketing's a really, in some ways, like a creative approach. It's a lot of like behind the lines. It's kind of like behind the scenes work. And that doesn't mean that your work doesn't get, seen by the outside world, but you don't. You're kind of, in some respect, behind the scenes. You're quote unquote making a product and putting it out there. And then really when it comes to an operations standpoint, like doing the work in the field, that's really the responsibility of sales. So marketing is kind of, it's doing all of the work of assembling kind of, what is the product, what is the business, what is the pricing, what are I'm getting all this information in. Let me set the business. Let me make assumptions. Let me gather everything from all the different pieces of my company and wrap it up in a bow and put it out there and say, hey, team, go execute. And then it's kind of all the executor's job to take that plan, roll it out, and see how it goes. So that's how we want to think about marketing. Like marketing's job is to set the field and enable people to go execute. And then they bring back information and say, hey, that worked, that didn't work. It could be improved like this. And then we tweak it. Okay. I guess it's a little bit similar to like how product development works. If you think about like software developers, software developers are developing to spec. Like most of the time when you're developing a software product, like, somebody's telling you what to develop, and you may not have any, real idea of how that connects to how people are using it. What should it be priced? What are people willing to pay for? You're just kind of building the thing, and then you say, hey, here's the thing. Did it work the way, you thought it would? So that's marketing. Maybe has like a little similar kind of role, but more on the, not the product side, but the I guess sales enablement side of kind of the equation of your company. Okay. So that's how we want to think of marketing. It's kind of this creative pursuit. Let's cobble everything together. Let's set our plan and go out and do it. So, the reason we want to think about that is we want to approach the process of kind of improving our business scientifically. We don't just want to have like a million things that we're doing. We want to be like, oh, this is what I'm going to try this time. And then assess and say, hey, did that go better or worse than the way I did it last time? Should I do more or less of that? Should I, how should I change and tweak and move and maneuver and adjust my business so that my business is improving, and so I know why it's improving. That why question about why something is happening is oftentimes more important than if it's improving. We obviously want our business to improve, but some of the times if you change something in it makes your business worse, that can be worth its weight in gold, because you don't do that anymore. And if you don't get that answer, you may not know why something is working or not working. So that's kind of what we're in pursuit of. Marketing setting the parameters for the experiment. Sales is executing on that experiment and reporting back to marketing whether or not it worked. Okay. So what are we doing this week? Well, this week we are doing a top-down and a bottom-up analysis of our company. And I'm going to discuss what a top-down and a bottom-up analysis is. And I'm going to discuss how those things connect together to basically produce our business model that then allows us to start tweaking things. Okay. So there's a couple different resources we can look at. One is an ebook that I've produced and that I posted 2 videos in the course. I'll share my screen here and we'll take a look at those. But I'm going to discuss those for a little bit. And then your job is going to be to produce a bottom-up and a top-down market analysis. And again, we're going to talk about what those 2 analyses look like and kind of how this whole thing works. So let me share my screen here. This is always the fun part. I'm never quite ready to go on this, but nailed it this time. So let's see. So if you should be able to see this here. This is our syllabus. And we're in our marketing week. And if I come to my marketing week, obviously there's a bunch of different things on marketing to give you a general sense of marketing. And at the bottom here, we've got 2 short videos that talk about top-down and bottom-up market sizing. Now, why am I focused on these 2 things and not the rest of all these materials that are here? Well, I'll tell you, I think these summarize everything else that's in here. I think everything you're learning, like basically it presents itself and it's going to impact kind of the things that we do in this market sizing. Okay. So it's not to say these other things aren't important, but I think this type of analysis wraps everything in a bow and kind of gives you a tool on how to operate your business and it gives you a tool on how to think about marketing. Obviously, there is the creative side of marketing. How do we create a great logo? How do we create a great email campaign? What are all the different tools that we use to get our message out there? Those are all kind of quote unquote marketing things, maybe marketing decisions. And then maybe there's the sales side of actually using those tools. But to me, coming up with a market size is kind of a culmination of, do you really understand your company from a marketing standpoint? So that's why we're doing this. I hope that makes sense. This is, it's quite technical. We're doing numbers here, right? And marketing, I know, marketing can oftentimes seem like the fun part of an organization, and I think that's true, but there is like real work that goes into marketing. And if the way you approach marketing is just how do I create the next cool meme or something like that, you may have success, but that success is going to be very difficult to repeat. So what we're trying to find is figure out how to do things repeatable and directionally aligned with our goals, and able to produce outcomes that we can repeat and know why they work. All right, so those are the 2 videos I want you to watch, and I'll go into those in a second. The other resource that I want you to look at is if you go to my website, zimmers.com, and click up here on ebook, you'll open just kind of a short ebook that I have. And then if we go to, let's see, where are we going? We're going to slide, we go to page 6. That'll give you a little more information on how to look at market size. So I want to look at this triangle here, because this triangle kind of explains, what bottom up and top down analysis is. So this one on the left, this is our top down. This one on the right is our bottom up. And again, I'll explain those in more detail in 1 second. But what I want you to understand is what we're doing is we are analyzing a market, meaning where we are trying to sell our product, who we're trying to sell it to, all the variables that go into basically how much revenue we're going to produce from our activity. We're going to analyze it in 2 different ways, top down and bottom up. And then we're going to compare those. And those 2 analyses, at the end of the day, we want them to be roughly equivalent. If we've done it correctly, these should be roughly equivalent. Now, it is possible to do this incorrectly and have them be roughly equivalent as well. So just because they're roughly equivalent doesn't mean you did the analysis correct. And in some perspective, correct is subjective. But what I can tell you is that if these are not roughly equivalent, you have done it incorrectly. So I can't tell you if you've done it correctly just because your answer equates. However, I can tell you you've done it incorrectly, and I don't know, it might be it might be top down, you might have done top down incorrectly, you might have done bottom up correctly, or you might have done both of them incorrectly. So I can't tell you the why or the what's going on, why isn't it working, but what I can tell you is if they are not equivalent, you have done it incorrectly. So we want these 2 analyses at the end of the day to be roughly equivalent. And if they are roughly equivalent, what that'll tell us is we've done our analysis somewhat correctly. And now we have a few variables on how we think about our business. And then we'll talk about what do we do with that? What do we do with that analysis? And again, I don't think that's really anything we're going to do in this class, but this is to give you the information around, okay, now I understand how to look and analyze my business, get my kind of set of variables that now I'm able to tweak and move and think about how to change, and then go operate and go move your business and improve your business. Okay, so hopefully that is helpful from how to think about this. Yeah, so let me, I'm going to jump over and just show some screenshots from those 2 videos that have been posted and talk about kind of what are these 2 analysis and how do we think about them. So let's see. So hopefully this shows up. This is just I just stopped this video on a screenshot where it's talking about top-down analysis. And in this video, basically what the professor is talking about is a top-down analysis, and basically his business is creating 3D printed tchotchkes. Now, what's a tchotchke? It's just a thing, a widget, whatever you want to call it. So just a widget, an item for sale, and it's being produced via 3D printer out of plastic, and I guess that he's focused on making basically small animals. That's what their business he's identified is what they can do or what they want to do or whatever. That's what they've decided that they're going after. So what you can see here is the way this analysis works is this a top-down analysis. Basically, you're looking at the largest possible market and you funnel down and you kind of knock out, I'm starting with my largest possible addressable market, and then I minimize that down to what can my product actually go after. And like I said, this can kind of go on for forever. You want to stop at some point around, what we're trying to address is what is the addressable market of what we think our solution addresses. So if you have a local business that is only going to address the possible customers in your local area, basically, like, it's important to recognize that, like, the largest possible, addressable market you have is kind of every single customer, maybe producing or consuming once a day. I don't know how often they'd be producing your product, but like, that's the maximum you could ever sell to. Now, if you add an online component, potentially you've got a global marketplace. Maybe not, depending on your pricing or something like that. But, that's where we want to start. What is the largest possible place, we could sell our goods, and what is the largest possible market that we'd be able to produce? And what, he found through his research was that the global market of tchotchkes or widgets is $1 billion per year. That's where he started. Now, the whittling down here is that, of that global market, the US market is 10%, which means we took 1 billion down to 10 million. 10% of 1 billion is 100 million. Sorry, 100 million, not 1 million. So 10% of 1 billion is 100 million. So the US market, that's the only place we're going to sell. Now, the next kind of reduction is that the modern, there's modern versus antique, and 50% of the market wants modern. So that's where we're playing here versus antique. So, that knocks 100 million down to 50 million. And then most people don't want plastic. They want something else. So that's 20% of that 50 million. Therefore, it's 50 million down to 10 million. And, of that market, most of the people actually want pets, animal figures. That's a big percentage. So it's 70% of that market, and that whittles down to 70 million. And that's where he's decided to stop as far as what is the addressable market that you could go after. Now, that doesn't mean to say that your business will be a $7 million business. But what that means is basically the maximum, if you captured 100% of your addressable market, the maximum that your business size could be would be $7 million per year. Now, maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. It doesn't really matter. That's what this analysis shows, is that at maximum, this business will produce $7 million. Now, what we aren't assuming there is, like, okay, so our business is $7 million. Kind of, my hope is to capture 5% of that market or something like that. 10%. My hope is to capture 10% of that market after 3 years, which would be $700,000 per year. Like, we aren't doing that. This is the maximum. This is the max addressable market size. Okay. So that's top down. Again, we start with our kind of macro environment and then whittle it down. So where do you start to do this? Well, you want to think about, well, what is the maximum market that I could address? What is everything kind of encompassing? What data and statistics can I pull that even allows me to whittle it down? So kind of where you want to start, if I had a childcare development business, so let's say I'm doing a local child care. And let's say like maybe I'm doing a childcare business that is like, maybe it's education focused, and really I'm kind of, in some respect, I'm like combining childcare with like education. So it's I don't know, maybe my business is actually scholastic. Cool. So I'm creating kind of a mid to low tier of like private education, something like that, for parents that don't want public school but can't afford a high-end tier private college. Or maybe it's not even that they can't afford, or not college, private school. Maybe it's K through 12. I've been involved with a few of those, so I know they exist. So maybe it's not even that they can't afford it. Maybe it's that they just don't want that. They're not looking for. So where would I kind of start? Well, if I was to start, I'd say, well, my business is going to be in, San Diego County, and I think parents are willing to drive 50 miles. So my top line market is going to be the amount of dollars, spent in on private education kind of within a 50-mile radius of my location, something like that. That's where I'd start. Now, maybe you can find that number, maybe you can't, but that gives me a starting number and a starting point. And what I would then want to do is be like, okay, is that a starting point? Can I find that kind of number? Can I find that number out there? Am I able to get that number? Am I able to find some data and statistics that allow me to cobble together what do I think about that is? And then let me say, okay, out of that global maximum, what percentage are willing to drive, this distance? What percentage are, what percentage are willing to spend more than $1,000 per month? Or, I don't know what the pricing is, but like, you kind of start with, let me think about how am I going to think about my business? And then what we say is, okay, what data can I actually find? Or the other way you may do this is maybe you've got a piece of data out there that has caused you to be like, hey, this piece of data gives me an indication that, like, I think this is a real business because of this piece of financial information that I was able to find. And then what we do is we kind of scale off that and we build a model based off of that. So you can kind of go both ways depending on what information you're able to provide. Now, the next question is, well, hey, professor, where do I find that information? Well, one, I hope if you've either decided to start a business or if you're in the market currently, like you should have some idea of the market. Like it shouldn't just be, in a business, we don't just do what we want or what we'd like to do or what we hope to do. There's got to be some sort of market signal you're getting that's like, oh, this is a good idea for me to roll with this, So there, you should have some sort of signal. Now, you may need to think about what that signal is, but you should have some sort of signal. Now, if you don't, or maybe you're unable to, like, specifically cite that information, well, there's two ways to go about this. And honestly, like, the best places to go are, one, Google, like literally Google it. Start Googling stuff, find data, go down that rabbit hole, ask questions, go for it. And the other is like ChatGPT or an AI resource that, yes, may produce false data. However, gives you the ability to ask questions and iterate and dig and, and talk about to kind of a thing that'll at least give you feedback what your business is and what you're trying to find. So, you could plug into one of those tools. Hey, this is the business I'm trying to create. These are the parameters. Like, how would I think about creating a top-down analysis? Where should I start? And it'll spit something out to you. And then what you can do is you can take that, and now you have something that maybe you can go Google or verify or vet and start digging. So those are my pieces of advice on kind of where to go and how to start and what you want to do here. Okay. So that's the bottom or the top-down analysis. Now, from the bottom-up analysis, hopefully you can see this one. It's a little shiny on the screen, but we basically have the same business, which is, again, this I'm selling widgets, 3D printed pet widgets in the local US market. That's what this guy has decided to do. Now, from a bottom-up analysis, what we do is, instead of starting with the market, we start with the products. Okay. What are we selling? Who are we selling it to? How much can we sell it for? Okay, so those types of questions, what are we selling? Well, we could have a 3D printing service where where people come with us and we instead of, charging per item, we charge a per month subscription fee or something like that. That's a different business. What this business has decided, as you can see here on the screenshot, is it's selling $10 per item to shops. Okay, not even direct to consumer, selling to shops. All right. We could have sold direct to consumer. That's not what this business decided to sell to shops. That was a conscious decision. That was a market driven decision based on what this person knows about the product, about the market, about the consumer, about what they can get access to, about what's easy, about what's hard. But that was a conscious decision. So we set our price at $10 per item. We estimated based on some information that we found, we think we're going to be able to sell 250 items per year. And at maximum, the maximum number of shops we think we can get to is 5,000. And if we had 5,000 shops, basically we would saturate the market and control 100% of the market. Okay. And what that does is basically that gives us a market size of $12.5 million. Now, what you may say is, well, I don't think 5,000 shops is going to be, the full market. Maybe 5,000 shops, that'll allow me to achieve 10% of the market. Let's say 5,000 shops was 10% of the market, for instance. So then I'd say, well, if I was going to get 100% of the market, therefore, instead of $12.5 million, it'd be $125 million. Okay. Now, like I said, we set these two analysis roughly equivalent. So once on this example, the bottom up gave me 12.5 for 10%. I'm saying, let's see if that proves true. This is just off the top of my head. And on our bottom up, we said at 100%, we're getting $7 million. Okay. So let's just say this was 100% then. So our bottom up gives us $12.5 million for 100% of the sales, or for 100% of the market. And our top down gave us $7 million, again, for 100% of the market. So we're comparing, and we say one analysis gave us 7 million, one analysis gave us 12.5. So the question becomes, are these roughly equivalent? Okay. The answer is, I don't know. Do you think they're roughly equivalent? Should they be refined more? I could adjust my price on my shops. What would I adjust to change this? Is there another variable I would introduce? What would I do? I could very easily just change the number of shops, that I think covers the US, to be something slightly lower that produces that when these numbers are multiplied together, produces a market size, or a total market size that's less. So these can be easily manipulated to make them exactly equivalent. The reality is we kind of want to like block our mind from what did I have and what did I do, and we don't want to just be falsely doing these analysis to make them meet. What we want to do is we want to do these with kind of our blinders on and just be like, I'm just doing the analysis. I'm just doing it without thinking about the other one at all. And then I'll compare and say, hey, how did that go? So here's what I would say. We started with a global marketplace of $1 billion. And when we whittled it down, we are within, $5.5 million, which, which is almost double. One is almost double the other. But the reality is like these things are within an order of magnitude. They're pretty close. So I actually think this analysis is pretty reasonable, even though, it's $5.5 million, nearly double. But it's been whittled down and justified, and these things seem somewhat equivalent to me. Now, to you, they may not, and you may want to further refine, and that's okay. But to me, if this was an assignment that was turned in, I would say, hey, I think you actually did a pretty good job, and now you've got something you can execute on. Okay, so that's what we're producing. That's the assignment. That's what we're going to turn in. So let me talk for a second about what we do with this information once we've produced it. All right, so you've got the assignment now. If we go into the assignment over here, you'll see that Let's go to our modules. Then we come down to our addressable market analysis. And you'll see that this is what we're submitting. Okay. So hopefully this is pretty clear. Let's talk about what we do with this. So we know that if we look at our bottom up, we know that, you know, we're going to sell our items at $10 each. We're going to sell our items at $10 each to stores, right? There's an assumption. Maybe we're doing that already. You know, maybe we've, depending on where the state of your business, maybe you've confirmed that this price is working. And you know, what you're trying to do is you're trying to, maybe you've got one store. Let's just say, like, where my business is right now, I've got one store, so I've been able to kind of confirm that, hey, my customer is willing to pay $10 each. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm selling to one store, and the store is accepting my products at $10 each. So it's like, hey, this price feels reasonable. And now, you know, maybe I'm only doing $100,000 per year, or I'm sorry, maybe I'm only selling 100 items per year per shop. Right. So this model saying I got to sell 250 and get to 5,000 stores in order to make this market, you know, verifiable, in order to verify my logic here that, like, what I've done is correct. So what we do with this is basically, like, if that's the case, well, I could do a couple things. You know, I could say, well, okay, what I really need to do is I need to expand my number of stores. You know, maybe that's the right move right now is to say, okay, I need to go from one shop to two shops. Because if I go from one shop to two shops, I'll double my revenue. Let me go see if I can do that. Now the question would be like, well, how do you do that? What are you testing if you do that? Well, what you'd be testing there is, like, is this model, like, repeatable? So can I take my item that I'm selling at $10 each, and can I go into another store and land another store? And does that store, you know, produce the same or equivalent, you know, number of items per year? And maybe we don't have it last per year, but maybe we want to analyze it on a per week basis or something like that and say, hey, is this repeatable as I expand stores? What's going on here? I made an assumption at 250 per year. Maybe the store that I'm in right now is low performing, and I'm going to go find a high performing store. And, you know, these things are going to, you know, roughly equate out. So maybe that's what I'm testing. Maybe I haven't sold many items, and what I'm trying to test is whether or not, you know, A, my pricing is correct. So my $10 per item is okay. So I try to go into stores and, you know, see if they're willing to buy my items at $10 each. Maybe I find one that is, and from there, then I can test, okay, well, what's the average sales? You know, I've got one store, but that's my average if I've only got one. So how's one store perform? And then I can, you know, test that. And depending on what we find out when we're doing that, you know, then we come back and we say, all right, this is the information that I found. I need to tweak this. I need to refine this. I need to adjust this model based on the information that I found. Now, how this kind of connects back to how these two analyses connect is, you know, this is assuming 100% of the market. Now, maybe what I want to say is, well, my hope is in year one to capture, again, 10% of the market. So I know if I've captured 10% of the market, I know if I can capture 10% of the market, you know, within 3 years, or I see that growth trajectory that, you know, that I'm able to kind of grow into this market. And then I can see, once I'm able to capture that, you know, at that point, then I can do an analysis around, like, okay, I was able to capture 10. Like, should I capture 20? What's the best way to capture 20? Is the best way to capture 20 to simply just grow with my current business? Is the best way to capture 20, you know, maybe I want to change, instead of just offering plastic, maybe I offer plastic and metal. Maybe that's an easier way to grow from the 10% that I've captured to the 20% that I've captured. So if you think about these things are basically all connected. So ultimately, what I want to do in my ideal world is I want to capture, and this is really like growth planning. This is, if I had a 50-year business and I achieved my wildest dreams, the wildest dreams that I can imagine would be to capture 100% of this global market and be a 1 billion per year, annual sales company. The question becomes, okay, well, how do you do that? What's the best way to do that? Maybe when you get to 1%, of this pet figure market, maybe at 1%, maybe it's easier to grow rather than trying to go from 1% to 2% by doing the same thing. Maybe it's going to be easier to grow double, let's say, from 1% to 2% by adding a different material or not just doing pets. I don't know. Like, to me, pets are 70% of the market. So I would say, maybe like adding another material seems like kind of an easy way to grow your business, potentially, assuming that, people that want pet figures also want pet figures not in plastic. I don't know. Again, this is, you need to do this analysis yourself. But maybe that's a better way to grow your business. So depending on where kind of in this trajectory of your business, we kind of analyze at different points and we think about, okay, what have I proven? What do I have confidence in? And what experiments am I willing to run, to test? How do I grow my business most effectively and most efficiently? So again, that kind of like we go back to this, like that top of our bottom up market analysis sort of connects to the bottom of our top down. And it's just, we're kind of adjusting how we think about and how we analyze our business, depending where along this growth curve that we are. Now, most of the people in this class will be in kind of doing the testing and the analysis around that bottom up. And that's great. That's good. That's the best place to start, because once you nail those fundamentals, these other decisions, they're not that hard. Once you have a strong foundation, testing, how do I improve it? That's not that hard. Getting that single point of data around, like, does this work? Do I have a business that operates profitably, or do I have the indications, of a business that could operate profitably? That's the hardest step. Okay. I think that's it for today. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm here, I'm available. Like I said, this can be very difficult. A lot of people will look at this and it'll be a blank page and they will not know where to start. I understand that. This assignment shouldn't take forever. It really shouldn't. You may just need a little bit of help, asking questions about your business that allows it to click. So please, I urge you, reach out. Let me know if you need help, and I'm here to help. Okay? Have a great day. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next week.